Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to build a secure two-tier application environment in Microsoft Azure. This is a very practical project because we are going to simulate how an organization could deploy a web application and a database server in a production-like environment. So, like I'm going to provide the architecture, how it will contain. So, a Windows server. Uh, 2019 and a Windows Server 2019 for database server and like Azure Virtual Network, separate web and database subnets, network security groups, Azure Bastion for secure RDP, HTTPS access from the internet, and restricted communication between web and database server. So at the end, you will also understand the security design decision behind this architecture. So let's get started. So now, understanding the architecture. Before creating anything, let's understand our architecture. So we will create one virtual network inside a VNet, and like we will create two subnet. The first subnet will be web subnet, okay, and this subnet will contain our Windows Server 2019 web server, and the second subnet is database server, that is also the Windows 2019 server for database, and we will create an Azure Bastion subnet in which administrator will connect to Azure Bastion and then securely RDP into the virtual machine. The important point is that we don't need to expose RDP port like 3389, okay, directly to the internet. For the web server, we will allow HTTPS traffic from the internet. Like HTTPS uses TCP 443, and also the database communication will allow traffic between web subnet and database subnet. So conceptually our traffic is like from internet. So the traffic will flow from internet to https, then web server, then database server, and administrator will connect like this. Administrator from Azure Bastion to web server and then database server. Let's start with Azure portal. So search for the resource group, okay, and like I have already created the resource group, so you can also create by clicking on the subscription and provide your subscription and resource group name and the region in which you are going to host your application, and click on the review plus create. Okay. Uh, Once it create, you will see your resource group. Uh, Then we need to create the virtual network. So search for the virtual network. You will see the virtual network. Click on the virtual network. Select your subscription resource group and also provide the virtual network name. So I'm giving the name as a VNet Secure App Test. Select the region. So I have selected East US one, only East US, sorry, not one. Then all this VNet, a virtual network encryption, Azure Bastion, Azure Firewall, Azure DDoS protection, network protection. So all these settings by default. Okay, I will be like updated later in the address space. I will use 10.0.0/16 and delete this default subnet. And now let's create our subnet. The first subnet is 10.0.0/24, 10.0.1.0/24, in which like 256 addresses will create. Click and also need to provide the name, remove the default and provide the web subnet as a name. Click on add. Your web subnet is showing. Again, we need to add a database subnet. I will provide the database subnet name, remove the default, and also the IP address for database subnet 10.0.2.0/24, and rest the settings are as by default. No need to change now. Now will be create the subnet required for the Azure Bastion. So again, we need to add a subnet for Azure Bastion. So the Bastion subnet, I'm providing the name Azure Bastion subnet. So I need to select from drop down for which purpose. So Azure Bastion, and this is the starting address, okay, for Bastion. So all the subnets are showing which like we are we need to for this project, like web subnet, database subnet, Azure Bastion subnet, and then need to create. So click on the review plus create button, so it will validate. So let's wait for validating it. Yeah, the validation is passed. Now need to create it. So the deployment for like virtual network is started. So now it is deploying. So we will be come back once it deploy. Yeah, now it's deployed. So click on the go to resource, and you will see the overview section of virtual network. And in the setting you will click on address space. Okay, address space for virtual network. And in the subnet section you will see the web subnet, database subnet, and Azure Bastion subnet. Okay, and it is like showing the available IPs as 251, 251, 59. So like in Azure there is five IPs are reserved by Azure, okay, by default, and 251 is the usable IP. Now we are going to create the web server. So Let's create our first virtual machine. So you will search here, and also the last time when you used, so it will showing the virtual machine. Then click on drop create drop down, what select the virtual machine, select your resource, subscription, and provide the virtual machine name like VM01. Select your region, West US. Okay, and after that you need to select it as a standard security type. No need to trust launch virtual machine, only standard one. Okay. And click and search the Windows 2019. In marketplace, Windows Server 2019. Server, yeah, Windows Server 2019 data center XGen 24. Select it. Now getting loading now. Also, like, you will see the size of. Now select the size. So I will select the lowest one, standard D1, DS1, V2, 1 vCPU, 3.5 GB memory, and provide the username and password for your machine. I provided username, web user, password, and then inbound port. Rest all the setting as by default. Click next. You will see the disk size. Okay, disk type premium SSD. So all the setting are like leave it by default. Click on the network section. In the network section, you need to select the virtual network. So select our virtual network VNet, and select the subnet as web subnet. And all we also create or associate a network security group. For now, we will configure the required rules separately. And now rest all the settings are by default. Okay. Click review and create. So it is validating. Once it will validate, we will click on the create button. Validation completed. Now click on the create button. So the deployment is now started. So I'm pausing it. Once it will deploy, I will again restart. Our web server is now being deployed. So go to the resource section, and in overview section you will get all the information related to this virtual machine, like current status is running, and location also West US, all subscription IDs, public IP. Now we are again creating a database virtual machine, okay, for our database server. So again, click the same process, click on virtual machine, select resource group and provide the virtual machine name as virtual machine db vm01. No need for the availability zone. Select security type as standard. Select the image as Windows Server 2019 data center. Select the size of your VM. So by default, again, we need to create the user. I have created my credential db user password. Now click on next. No need to change on the disk section. All these are by default. Click on the networking section, and in networking section configure the our virtual network already we have configured. To select that virtual network, select the subnet, database subnet. No need to change anything, all the settings are by default. So the database server is therefore inside the same VNet but in a separate subnet. That's an important security design decision. So we don't want the web and database tier mixed together. Okay, so now click on the review plus create. So validation in progress. So will be started once like it validate. After validation complete, click on the create button. So validation is in progress. Now it is validated successfully. Click on create. So now the deployment for virtual machine for database is in progress. So we'll be start again when it's deployed successful. Now deployment is complete. So go to the resource section. You will see the virtual machine for database, all the details that you have provided. Okay, click on Microsoft Azure resource group, select your resource, and you will see all the details and that your resource have that you have created for your resource. There is two virtual machine, one for web and another for database, and also the VNet that you have already created. So now we come one of the most important part of this project, that is the network security group. So an NSG allow us to control network traffic using rules. So we'll be create an NSG for web subnet and another NSG for database subnet. Okay, now starting to create the NSG. So first I need to go inside this first virtual machine, web virtual machine. Click on the network setting, in which you will see the network security group already configured. So click on the create port rule and select the port, inbound port. In source, select service tag as internet. Source is asterisk all, destination any, and select service as port 443 for TCP. Select service as HTTPS. So by default, it will select the port 443 and also protocol TCP action, in which we need to allow traffic. And let's The priority is default 100 and provide the name for the this rule allow https internet and select add. Now security rule is added. So this allow so now we have created https port 443. So this allow internet user to reach the web application over https, but we noticing something important. We are not allowing rdp 3389 from the internet. That is intentional. Okay, now again going to set the NSG for the database VM. Okay, select the DVVM in the network setting. Select create create port role. Select uh, inbound role. Now here we come with one important section in DB NSG. So the inbound role in which we need to select the drop down, and here we are getting multiple option. So here I will select a new field which appear as a source IP addresses, and in which I will provide the source IP as 10.0.1.0 slash 24. So we have added our web subnet 10.0.1.0 slash 24, and because we are allowing traffic only from the web subnet, and now in the destination source port range it is asterisk, so it is correct. Now select the destination. uh, so in destination, like we need to keep any, that's okay, because NSG is attached to DVVM's network interface, and we need to now add the port for our destination port range. So it is like custom, and we'll be provide the DB port as 1433, and that is the destination port, because it is assuming your data like our database is on Microsoft SQL Server. Okay, and keep protocol as TCP and action as allow, and priority also 100, and we are providing the name as allow web to DB, and click add. So now our NSG is created for the database server. Uh, this means database can receive SQL traffic from web tier. Okay, but user on the internet cannot directly connect to the database. That's a major security principle. Expose only what needs to be exposed. Now we need a secure method for administrator to connect to our VMs. So instead of opening like TCP 3389, we directly use Bastion. So now we need to search Azure Bastion here. Click on the Bastion. Select your subscription and default resource group that you have already created, and provide the Bastion name as Bastion Secure App. Test. Select your region. I have West US, same as VNet region. Here you need to select basic one. For test project, basic is enough. For browser based RDP through Bastion. In virtual network section, I will select the virtual network that I have already created, VNet secure app, and here I will select the subnet that I have already created. And for public IPv4 address, public IP address, by default we need to create new. Okay, and rest all settings. Once all the settings keep by default, and click review plus create. So now the validation is passed. So now it is Bastion is deploying. So I'm pause it, and once it will deploy successful, I will again start it. Now our Bastion is deployed. It take around 5 to 10 minutes. So go to the resource section, and you will see the overview section of Bastion, in which like Bastion secure app test we have created. So now our Bastion is deployed. So we will test the connection. So let's test the connection. Open virtual machine. Take the web VM. Click the drop down for connect. Connect with Bastion. Here you need to provide your username and password. So I have provided username as web user that I have already, and providing my password, and click on open in a new browser tab and click connect. So you will get a pop-up message, so in which you need to your pop-up is showing block, to click it unblock, and now you are a browser based RDP session. So the administrator can access the server without exposing directly to the internet. Okay, so now I have opened a virtual machine of Windows 2019 server, and same for the database. Also, I can directly open the Bastion for database. Click on the connect with Bastion, provide the credentials, DB username, user, and the password. Click on connect. So now you are able to connect the database uh, virtual machine. So this give us a much safer administrative access model. Okay, so only the administrator can access the server, so without exposing RDP directly to the internet. Now the database VM is getting start. So now our browser based Windows server is open. Now let's test our application access on the web VM. We can install IIS for demonstration purpose. So open the server manager, go to add role, the manage, click on the manage add rules and features. And here you need to select the installation type as role based or feature based installation. And in the server section, uh, like we have already you selected the web server. In the server role we need to select web server IIS, select it, and here we need to add the feature. Click on add feature. Next, in the mm, services, then role services, and for our test we need to like keep all this as by default selected. Okay, and then next confirmation that, then install. So now it is installing. So installing will take time, so I'm keeping pause this. Once installation will complete, then we need to verify the IIS. So till now we are opening a browser. Ask me later. It is keep installing. It will take time. Once it install, I will again start it. Now installation completed. Click on close. Now here we need to test it. Click on the Internet Explorer, open a new tab and close all this. And here we need to test localhost. Now you can view the IIS Windows Server page. Okay, and for testing purpose, I am like creating a simple test page. For this, I need to go inside the file explorer. In file explorer, go inside this path, and I will create a index.html page in which I will save as some file. So at this point, I want to mention an important thing. This project was created using Azure Lab subscription. Okay, so the lab subscription has now expired, and Azure resources associated with this lab environment has been deleted. So I won't be able to continue the live Azure demonstration from this environment. However, the important part is that we have already completed and demonstrated the core implementation in step, so that we have already completed the creation of resource group, virtual network, web and database subnets, and also we have installed two Windows Server 2019 on both web and database server, and configure the network security group, and also like created the Azure Bastion as so that we can directly use to connect the both virtual machine through web based browser based connection. And also, like in the web server, I have installed IS, and finally we have tested locally using localhost. So although this project we covered like several real world Azure concept, okay, like the virtual network, subnet, network security group, Azure Bastion, and virtual machine, IAS. So all this very important like concept in Azure, and we have learned this component and also work together to create a secure application hosting for production ready environment. And now and also this lab ended, so there is logically next step is to, like, I have created this as a manually, so I want to create as a infrastructure code through Terraform, so it will deploy automatically all the resources that we have created, like resource group, VNet, Subnet, NSG's virtual machine, Bastion IIS configuration using Terraform. So then we can take this one step further, like we can use GitHub Terraform, Azure CI/CD. So this would turn a basic Azure networking project into a stronger Azure DevOps portfolio project. So we have like successfully built and tested our Azure two-tier application environment, and we verified the IAS was like correctly uh, installed on the web server. And although the lab subscription expired, I already mentioned. So if you found this project useful, then please like, the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it to anyone who is preparing for the Azure and DevOps interview. And in the next project, also I have mentioned, we'll be take same architecture and automation using like Terraform. So thanks for watching. See you in the next video.